have grown in the couple months here since training camp? I know you didn't spend training camp.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean, but it's, this coaching staff here is great. It's a lot of, smart coaches, guys that obviously know a ton about football, and so, just picking their brains and learning from them, and obviously watching Jordan and Malik has helped me out big time.
How much different of a quarterback are you than when you made that start as a rookie?
I would say, I'm obviously more experienced, been around the game more, obviously seen more looks, seen more defenses. So I would say, I'm obviously a better player just from, being in the NFL for, 2 years longer. But just, I've seen it before, and I've kind of know what to expect, now that I've got a start under my belt.
Easy to just get thrown in against a Brian Flores defense, right?
Yeah, it's, like I said, anytime you get to play, it's a blessing. So, whatever the circumstances are, I don't really look at that. I just look at it as, it's a great opportunity. So,
Matt talked about this morning kind of your athleticism. Is your mobility something you kind of pride yourself on at the position?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it, kind of like Matt said, I would agree that it's, something that I think is an advantage in my game. So, I don't want to lean on it every play. Obviously I want to get the ball to the playmakers who are more dynamic and athletic than I am. But, when I need to, I like to pride myself on being able to use my legs.
Clayton, when did you find out that you were going to be starting Sunday?
I think it was later yesterday, kind of right around, when we were going out to practice. It's kind of when I found out, and I'd kind of suspected, but I didn't really know for sure until then. So.
Over the last couple months learning the offense, what has that process been like? Is there any overlap with past experience?
There's a little bit of overlap. Obviously there's a lot of nuances and different things just with the run game, the pass game protections, all that type of stuff. But it was good getting in here, learning, like I said, from all the coaches and learning from Jordan and Malik. So it's been great.
You mentioned the Vikings defense a minute ago, but I guess where do you start in trying to prepare for them? And, when you look at the film, what kind of jumps out?
Just obviously you want to protect yourself. They bring, they do a lot of stuff, present a lot of looks, and bring a lot of pressure on defense. So knowing how to protect yourself and, if they disguise and they fool you, being able to get the ball out or, use your legs to make a play. So I would say that's probably the starting point, is just knowing the plan and knowing, how to get the ball out of your hands, when and where, and when to escape.
Clayton, did you play 1 year with Matthew Golden at Houston?
Yeah, it was 1 year. It was my senior year, his freshman year.
So you got a natural connection there?
Yeah,
Pick up where it left off?
Yeah, no, we have a connection. It's funny, when I got here, not a lot of people knew that because they always know, Golden as the UT receiver. But, I tell guys when he was a freshman, even then he was young, 17, 18 years old. He was balling, making plays. He was a big part of our offense that year.
Clayton, how much extra family or friends in general are expected to be there Sunday for this opportunity for you?
I know my parents are going, and then I believe my middle brother and his 2 sons are going, but as of right now, I think that's it. That list might grow as the week goes on, but as of now, that's the crew.
What was your parents' reaction when you told them you'd be starting?
I actually haven't told them. I think they just knew, and they're, I guess probably trying to give me my space to, prepare and get ready this week, so they're not blowing my phone up, which is nice. But I think they just kind of suspected and kind of booked travel plans on their own.
What was your reaction?
I was excited, kind of like I said earlier, anytime you get to play, it's a blessing. So, excited to have this opportunity, excited to, get in there and play football again. It's been a little while, so I'm excited.
Yeah, Rob mentioned the one start a couple years ago. I'm going to say it was a million years ago, like in football terms. So how eager you to kind of reboot things, starting you from that perspective?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. I'm, excited to get out there and just kind of get the feel of, being out there, obviously being in the stadium, having command of the huddle, and just, seeing the speed of the game. Obviously in practice you try to prepare for the game as much as you can, but once you're in it, for real, that's kind of when you get the full sense of it. So, I'm excited to be in there and trust the training that I put in.
Other than Matthew, what is your rapport with the guys as far as your pass catchers go?
It's good. I've thrown to most of those guys. I would say, throughout the season when we do routes on air and stuff, I've thrown, I would say, to pretty much everybody. As far as getting live team reps, obviously I haven't gotten reps with everybody, but I would say just strictly from a throwing and catching perspective, I've thrown with, just about everybody.
Outside of getting the win, what do you want to show, accomplish during Sunday's game?
Just go out there and play clean football. I think that's the main thing, is just go out, obviously know the plan, kind of like the things I touched on earlier, get the ball out on time, use my legs when I need to, and just play clean and operate at a high level.
Hey Clayton, how much have you learned, whether it's by watching or by asking questions from Jordan this season?
A lot. Obviously he's a naturally gifted player, but just the time that he puts in, studying the game plan, studying defenses, I would say is something that I've picked up on. He's, rarely, or really, I haven't seen a time in a game where, he's not prepared for a situation. So I think just his preparation throughout the week, and then obviously the skill set and the ability that he has is something that I've picked up on.
You saw a little bit of the field last week. Just what was that experience like for you, and playing in Lambeau?
It was cool. It was really fun getting to be in Lambeau. That was my first time, obviously being out there in a live game. So it was a really cool experience, and obviously didn't go the way I wanted it to, but it was still a really cool experience.
Hey Clayton, before the 23 draft, did you take a visit here or talk to the Packers at all?
I talked to a couple guys here. I did not take a visit though. Yeah, but I remember I was in contact with a few guys.
When the opportunity came at the end of camp to kind of pick your new spot, what did you like about Green Bay? What did you think would be a good fit here for you?
Obviously LaFleur is a great offensive mind, and the rest of the staff that he's got here. Sean Mannion's great. All those guys on the staff, and then obviously just the program itself, the organization. Obviously it's the Green Bay Packers. There's a long history and tradition of winning and good players and great quarterbacks, so that was something that appealed to me for sure.
Kind of behind the scenes, what is your role as the number 3 quarterback, and then I guess who's taken on that role with the roller reversal here this week?
Yeah, I would say, just preparing each week like I'm going to play. I think regardless of where you are in the depth chart, that's your role at any position, is just prepare as if you're going to start. But also watching things, like Malik and I every week will do like a DB report where we'll watch stuff and kind of pick up on things that, the safeties and the corners and the nickels do, and, present that to the quarterback room, as well as, just other things that we see throughout the week. And then as far as, that role now, it's kind of, Jordan, and Malik, and it's really everybody. It's kind of just everyone's, trying to help out the best that they can.